For centuries, we've been told the story of Gilgamesh, the mighty Mesopotamian king who built the walls of Uruk and journeyed to the end of the world. His name was etched in stone, his deeds immortalized in poetry, and his legacy revered for centuries. But what if everything we know about Gilgamesh is wrong? In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the myth of Gilgamesh and uncover the truth that's been hidden for centuries. We'll explore the origins of the myth, the different versions that have been told throughout history, and the hidden meanings that lie beneath the surface of the story. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the oldest surviving work of literature, paints a picture of Gilgamesh as a tyrannical ruler who oppressed his people and sought immortality at all costs. However, there are other versions of the myth that present a more nuanced and sympathetic portrayal of Gilgamesh. In the Sumerian King List, Gilgamesh is credited with building the walls of Uruk, a monumental feat that transformed the city into a powerful and prosperous center of trade and culture. He is also said to have been a wise and just ruler, earning the respect and admiration of his subjects. So which version of the Gilgamesh myth is true? Was he a tyrant or a hero? The truth is that Gilgamesh was likely a complex figure who embodied both positive and negative qualities. As a king, he was tasked with maintaining order and stability in a tumultuous world. This often required making difficult decisions that may have been unpopular with some. At the same time, Gilgamesh was also a man of ambition and drive. He sought to make his mark on the world, to achieve great things, and to leave a lasting legacy. This ambition sometimes led him to make mistakes and act in ways that were not in the best interest of his people. But Gilgamesh was also capable of great love and compassion. He was deeply affected by the death of his close friend Enkidu, and he embarked on a perilous journey to the end of the world in search of immortality, not out of vanity, but out of a desire to escape the inevitability of death and to find a way to live forever with his friend. In the old records, Gilgamesh had different names like Bilgames in Sumerian, Gilgamesh in Akkadian, and Gilgamos in Greek. The meaning of his name is a bit unclear, but it could mean the kinsman is a hero, or the old man is a young man, according to a scholar named Stephen Mitchell. Gilgamesh is sometimes connected with a god named Dumuzi, who was a shepherd god and a legendary king of Uruk. Dumuzi is famous for a story called The Descent of Inanna, where he faced challenges after being seduced by Inanna Ishtar, spending part of the year in the underworld. The story parallels Gilgamesh's rejection of Inanna and the loss of his friend. Even in Greek, they had a version of his name, Gilgamos. This shows that Gilgamesh's stories traveled to different cultures and became a part of the world literature and mythology. However, some folks argue that the way we understand Gilgamesh today might be a bit off. They claim that the interpretation of the epic is skewed by a Western-centric viewpoint. This means that the cultural biases and perspectives of the translators and scholars who brought this ancient story to light may have influenced how we see it now. Essentially, they say that the original meaning of Gilgamesh might be getting lost in translation. To figure out if there's any truth to these claims, it's essential to peek into the minds of the translators and consider the world they lived in. Critics suggest that factors like cultural biases and the geopolitical climate of the time could have shaped how Gilgamesh is presented today. In other words, it's like looking through a historical lens to see if there's a bit of unintentional distortion happening. The translations of the Epic of Gilgamesh are one of the main points of disagreement. Different people have translated the epic into different languages, and each one has its own cultural and linguistic biases. Some critics say that these personal biases could accidentally change the meaning of the text, making it less true to the original Mesopotamian worldview that was written on the cuneiform tablets. One big disagreement is the epic's focus on heroic themes and its unrealistic portrayal of Gilgamesh, who is very important to the story. Some critics say that this focus might be a result of Western Romanticism, a way of thinking that often makes heroes seem like mythical figures. These critics say that the epic may have been meant to send a more complex and relatable message about the human condition in the first place. You could see Gilgamesh as more than just a simple hero. He was a complex character who had to deal with death, friendship, and the search for meaning in a world where the gods were unpredictable. These critics say that the romantic lens of Western culture may have obscured these complex parts, making a story that is more in line with classical heroism than with the subtleties of Mesopotamian culture and philosophy. To show this, let's look at the idea of heroism. In Western cultures, heroes are usually shown as very strong and good people who use their bravery and skill to overcome problems. This archetype fits with the idealized picture of Gilgamesh as a strong and brave person. Mesopotamian views, on the other hand, may have had a more complex view of what it means to be heroic, one that includes being weak, thinking about oneself, and accepting death. To get a better sense of Gilgamesh, you need to know about the different ways people lived in ancient Mesopotamia. Mesopotamian societies were complicated and had many parts. Religious, social, and political factors all played a big role. Some people say that our view of Gilgamesh is too narrow and skewed because we don't understand these subtleties. The epic talks about death, friendship, and trying to find meaning in a world where the gods are unpredictable. Some say that in some translations, the focus is too much on the hero's adventures and not enough on these existential issues. By looking at the cultural background again, we might find new layers of meaning that have been missed or played down in previous interpretations. A different part of the conspiracy theories about Gilgamesh is the role that politics and ideas play in them. Some critics say that Western scholarship, especially in the 19th and 20th centuries, was shaped by colonial attitudes and a desire to show that one culture was better than others. They say that a Eurocentric view may have skewed the translation and interpretation of Gilgamesh, which could have changed what the epic is really about. It is possible to figure out how much the epic has been changed or distorted on purpose by looking at the history of Gilgamesh scholarship, from the first translations to modern reevaluations. It is important to think about whether the different interpretations are really based on a desire to get a better understanding of the text, or if there are still biases that are affecting the conversation. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more videos on the mysteries of the ancient world.